2 weeks ago on Tuff Trax, the world champion Equalizer put the new Bigfoot in its place. 1 week ago, Equalizer is first to the finish line again, but disqualified for starting too soon. Today, the tiebreaker. The superstars of monster truck racing are once again in Memphis, Tennessee, doing battle in the Mid-South Coliseum. Hi again, everyone. I'm Scott Douglas here on Tuff Trax. Dennis Anderson, the driver of the Gravedigger, with me as we're back for our third straight week in Memphis and ready for some more intense competition. Dennis Anderson, the big question, especially with a lot of talk and a lot of guys doing a lot of jawing last year, this year, more money than ever on the line in the TNT Point Fund. More prestige, more races. Can you win the championship?
Yeah, I really think so. You know, it's just like, last year I started out, I was running strong in the points. I started out running strong in the points this year, but who knows, you know, we got to see midway through the season. I might come out with a new truck. We're working on it right now. I'll do a truck change and just take the points right off of this truck and put on the new truck. But I'm going to really battle it out hard. I want that first place this year.
The championship on the line every time Dennis Anderson and the Gravedigger and the rest of the TNT monster trucks do battle. We're looking forward to a great race in Memphis. Let's go with Army Armstrong inside the Mid-South Coliseum to get ready for the action.
Well, thanks, Scott. For the third week in a row, we still don't know who the #1 monster truck in America is. The reason is Bigfoot and the Equalizer, the two trucks that everybody was afraid of. They've got a reason to be afraid of them because every time we go down to a final round, it's between these two trucks. But Andy Brass, tell us a little bit about this rivalry that's starting to build.
Well, the rivalry between me and Dave has been building, you know. The two of us have been meeting now for the last couple of weeks. First time he's got me, second time I got him. The truck's been working real well. We've been pushing the truck. We've been pushing the guys we've been running. We've been averaging a half to 3/4 of a second faster than anybody else, and I think that's causing everybody to run hard. The first time I met Dave, like I say, I busted, broke a transmission in the truck, and the second time we just pushed Dave real hard. He jumped the line, and we got him. So now this third week, you're going to see us. It's going to be a close race. If both of us can get the light at the same time, it's going to be good, close racing.
I think that's going to be the trick, is getting the light at the same time, because David Morris, your defending world champion, cut that light last week and was eliminated by a foul start, but he was only a 1/4 of a second behind the awesome Bigfoot of Andy Brass. You guys are kind of the country boys in this operation. They come in with a high-tech truck, have everybody worried, but you guys aren't backing down at all. You're still going after them any way you can.
Yeah, we've got to hang in there and be real tough and competitive all the way through this 1990 season. I think we've got the suspension that we've been looking for, only we're lacking a little bit of horsepower now. If we can get the correct amount of horsepower with that, the truck will still be real good and controllable. I think it's going to be the answer.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, because when this show's over today, one of these two drivers will establish themselves as the truck to beat in 1990.
We're going to begin taking a look at highlights from the qualifying round, Army, and let's go first to Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher. Gary Porter, of course, getting off to a late start, but has quickly been amassing some points, and I'm sure as things begin to even out over the winter, we'll see that Crusher name moving ever onward up the ladder.
Well, that's definitely going to be the case. You know, so far, because of the quick times between Bigfoot and Equalizer, they've kind of dominated the spotlight. But right behind the spotlight in the shadows is this truck. He's cutting 4 seconds right now, Scott.
That's a pretty good time at 4.26. It kind of gets, as you mentioned a moment ago, it kind of gets overwhelmed with Equalizer Bigfoot in the 3s, but that's a good time. Here's Dennis Anderson and the Gravedigger. Marvin Smith, the all-new Wild Hair, a popular truck, but the Wild Hair really hasn't been getting the times yet.
And the track really works to Anderson's likings. However, a little bit of a problem. He's lost a cylinder on that run, Scott. That could really hurt. See it coming out right now? He is in trouble. He's down to 7 cylinders right now, Scott.
Well, that's too bad, because that's a competitive time at 4.09.
Notice the chassis right here. Those front wheels settle down. This is the ideal track. Very similar to Chicago last year when Anderson dominated with his Gravedigger.
However, you can see the problems on Dennis Anderson's Gravedigger. Excellent qualifying, but trouble at the end. David Morris coming Equalizer as Morris tries to lay down another sub-4-second shot in the pit, working on the Gravedigger. The crew chief struggling right now with that motor, and it looks like a lot of oil leaving the engine.
Yeah, they definitely hurt it. I know they've lost one cylinder. You can just tell by the way it's pumping. Speaking of pumping, this kid is from Tennessee, in Tennessee. The world champion would love to lay down a sub-4-second run in this qualifying shot. He's capable of doing it. By run, what's going to happen, Scott? Oh, look at this. Beautiful.
3.82 for David Morris and the equalizer. Fast so far, but our next look is going to be at the new Bigfoot with Andy Brass from St. Louis, Missouri. Buffalo Tremor will also be qualifying at this time, but nobody expects to see Tremor out-qualify Bigfoot right here.
Remember, under 4 seconds, the 382 is your quick time held by the equalizer. Bigfoot, if nothing else, wants bragging rights. Quick qualifying time will give you lane choice for the whole evening. Oh, beautiful. Look at this. Andy Brass is back in town. What's the time, Scott? It looked quick.
3.79. Bigfoot, your fast qualifier with Andy Brass out of St. Louis, Missouri. Looks like a rocket shot out of there. Well, we're going to take a moment to determine the brackets as Bigfoot comes across the car's isolated army on a super run.
Boy, the truck really runs smooth, Scott.
Here's the Restore Automotive Products points coming into today's racing. Equalizer still with the big lead. King Crunch is now into second with Scott Stevens. Digger hangs on to third. Then it's Steve Wilkie in USA 1 and Mike Wine's Outlaw rounding out the top 5. Currently 6th on the World Championship point standing. Dave Wysorik's Nightlife. Buffalo Tremor is 7th. Then it's Mopar Magic, Awesome Kong, and Thunder Chicken. But Bigfoot's already knocking at the door, and he's only had 2 races thus far. The Restore Automotive Products point standing. Tuff Trax is brought to you by Micro Machines, the most colossally collectible vehicles in the world. If it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing. Tuff Trax, bringing you the Major League in Monster Truck Racing, the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. Here are our brackets today in Memphis, Tennessee. Fast qualifier Bigfoot gets a bye. Then it's Awesome Kong coming out against Whiskey Business. Buffalo Tremor draws Jesse Bergey's playing for keeps. Then look at this matchup. The Gravedigger and USA 1 in the first round. Carolina Crusher comes out against Bobby Breen and the Mad Dog. The Outlaw and King Crunch, that'll be an outstanding matchup. Clydesdale meets Wild Hair, and Equalizer's first round opponent is his old nemesis, the Nightlight. As Whiskey Business and Ken Deppy out of Jefferson City, Missouri, getting ready to hook up with Awesome Kong. Now, of course, Deppy new to the TNT Monster Truck Challenge, so we got a chance to talk to Ken for a minute and asked him about his background in racing monster trucks.
This is the first season for me actually racing them. I've done a lot of 4x4 stuff over the last 12, 15 years, but actually racing time, I'm the rookie.
Ken Deppy, a very likable young man and gaining a lot of experience. I thought he's been looking pretty good in recent weeks.
Yeah, he's not going in over his head. He's learning on every run. And the Awesome Kong Texas-based truck, he's going to go to the next round. But we say so many times how important time in the seat is. Whiskey Business driver, he knows that. He's learning, Scott.
He has a good run here as he hangs with one of the best, Steve Kane and Awesome Kong out of Killeen, Texas. Good run for the Kong truck.
You got to remember, Kong probably making 500 more horsepower than the Whiskey Business truck. So he's going to be a player. Speaking of player, playing for keeps comes out, Scott.
And speaking of horsepower, Buffalo Tremor could generate some.
No doubt about that. Tremor in the red truck, far side.
John Kwasniewski out of Buffalo, New York.
Johnny K, a young kid, second-generation motorsports. His father was big in drag racing. He's making a name for himself in monster trucks. He already has a couple of wins under his belt, and look at this. Jumping all over that Michigan Chevrolet of Jesse Bergey.
Jesse Bergey in the Auto Value playing for keeps. Not enough to hang with the Buffalo Tremor. So Johnny K will move into the second round as Kwasniewski makes it look easy. Playing for keeps never got out of the hole very well.
Well, one thing we have to do, we have to give credit for playing for keeps. They were involved in a highway accident on the way to this event. The driver's just running, trying to put time and get points on it. So that's kind of a smart move. Now, speaking of move, during a qualifying run, we saw this cylinder go away. And Scott, he's completely lost one cylinder. Going to be running only on 7.
So with Digger not at full power, he will still try to knock off Steve Wilkie in USA 1, one of the fastest improving drivers on the circuit. He had big shoes to fill with Rod Liptow giving up that seat in USA 1 after winning the World Championship in '88, finishing third in '89. Wilkie seems to get better each and every week, and you know he gets fired up to run against the digger.
Yeah, he gets psyched up, and he doesn't seem to get better. He really is. This guy is coming in really trying to get into some big footsteps in front of him of Ron Litzau. Wilkie's a good driver. Look at this. Look at what a run. Nose over. He was going high side and kept his foot right up in the throttle to put USA 1 into that next round, Scott.
7 cylinders or not, Digger didn't back off. He went full tilt, but not enough to get it done. This may be the best race ever by Steve Wilkie in the USA 1 truck. And when it nosed up, he just stayed on it. It gets him the victory. Army's with him now.
All right, Steve Wilkie, I can tell you're pumped. Everybody in Memphis is pumped, but that was better than a blue ticket ride at Disney World, son. You should have seen the look on your face.
It feels good. Digger's beating me up all year, and I finally put down a 409, which is what we've been trying to do all weekend. It felt really good, a little nose over in the cars, but if that's what it takes, that's what we're here for.
Hang in there. We'll see you next time around.
All right.
One more time, let's take a look at it as Gravedigger gets out of the hole pretty well, but USA 1 just stays in it and stays on it. Army's working his way over to talk to Dennis Anderson about an upset loss at the hands of Steve Wilkie and the USA 1 Chevrolet.
Yeah, I'm only running on 7 cylinders. We lost a cylinder in qualifying. I gave it the best shot. I just couldn't pull it off.
The word from Dennis Anderson. Hold on to your horses for more rough and tumble action. When we come back, Mike Wine spurs the Outlaw into a full throttle gallop.
It's Jimmy
Tuff Trax with the superstars of monster truck racing in Memphis, Tennessee. For first round elimination action, on the left of your screen is Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher, Wadesboro, North Carolina. On the right of your screen, the Mad Dog Chevrolet, Bob Breen, Jefferson City, Missouri.
And Scott, Bob Breen is going to give us a unique look. You're riding in the Mad Dog right now, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on. The boy from Missouri is going to take you for a ride in Memphis, Tennessee.
Side by side with the Carolina Crusher. And the win goes to Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher. Let's take a look at how Bobby Breen saw this race against Crusher from the angle. Now you're in the cockpit with Bob Breen and Mad Dog.
Okay, he goes over to jump. Now he skies it. He's in the air. Bam! What a landing. These guys really take a beating, Scott.
And you can see how they lose sight of the end of the course when they hit those cars and go up. Outstanding camera shot from inside the Mad Dog. Well, here's a beaten and banged up Scott Stevens in King Front. He qualified only 15th today, and you can see why. That's what's left of the truck after a bad crash last week.
You know, it's kind of interesting. He picked up a new sponsor, that being the Cobra Seat People. Now, this is the last week run coming up. I want you to watch the right front. It'll tuck under right now. Now he's in trouble. The whole thing comes apart on him. But as luck would have it for his sponsor, he's going to run this weekend less the door. You're going to have a real good opportunity to see that seat. And he says it really, really works. And that's one of the reasons he wasn't hurt last week.
I think we're getting another look at last week's crash because it really was violent. One of the more violent crashes I've seen for a truck that didn't go ahead and go over, Army.
What you want to watch is the right front wheel. The furthest away from your front wheel, it'll tuck in and get caught in the body right here. Okay, it's tucking right there. You notice? Now it's just like a rubber band that just runs out of stretch. He's caught. He's very lucky he did not go over.
Now watch this angle, Army, and at the end, now we're going to see the violent crash, but watch, Crunch will actually clip Buffalo Tremor.
Yeah, he'll catch him in a quarter panel. You know, we had communications with Scott Stevens during this run. It was amazing how calm he was once this was over. The contact will take place right there. The right rear wheel caught the Tremor. But the Texas truck definitely's got his work cut out for him. Do not look for a bonsai run. Scott Stevens is in Memphis. A lot of his sponsors are here. He's just trying to make a run to get some points. Exactly the case right there.
That's all he does is he barely rolls the hill. Easy win from Mike Wine and the Outlaw Ford. But the Outlaw Ford isn't 100%. As we look at it again on the replay, we understand that Nick Rossi's truck out of Pennsauken, New Jersey is having some fuel problems. And Mike Wine's actually lucky he wasn't racing a healthy truck in that round. Let's get the word from Mike Wine on exactly what is wrong with the Outlaw and what the prospectus is for him the rest of this night in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, I had on the firewall where we got his regulators for the fuel pumps, I had one regulator break down on me, so I only got one regulator feeding 2 carburetors. I'm hoping I'll get enough fuel to both carburetors so I don't pop the blower off.
Simply put, not getting enough fuel to the fire.
Yeah, and he brought out an interesting point. If he doesn't get enough fuel, he'll hang an intake valve, then you got major problems. You lift the supercharger. Like you said, that's something you do not want to do. Talking about do not want to do, neither one of these guys wanted the other one to put them out. They've had problems all year long. They're not up in a point chase where they want to be. Each one of these guys definitely wants to hammer the other guy. Smith on the right, Clydesdale on the left. Both of them Chevrolet, Scott. You take the call.
Marvin Smith out of Missouri in the Wild Hair. Bennett Clark, Georgia faced Clydesdale. The win goes to Marvin Smith and the Wild Hair Chevrolet.
He was lucky to get through that when he had some problems on the starting line I'm not sure he was aware of. You notice the front wheels are turned just a little bit. He came out a little bit crooked. Clydesdale actually beat him to the cars, but Smith aired him out and takes the win.
Clydesdale seemed to die in midair, and Wild Hair comes away with the victory. Army's going to get him right now. There's Marvin popping out of the truck.
Marvin Smith acknowledging the crowd and their cheers. When you were sitting in that starting line, we made an observation I don't think you were aware of. You had about a 30-degree right turn on your steering, on your wheels. Are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't real sure. I kept looking at it, but I couldn't tell the way the bank was set there. I thought I was crooked, so when I came out of the hole, I was correcting quickly.
Yeah, you nailed it and completely back out of the throttle and went into it again. That was close because that Clydesdale wasn't cutting you any slack.
Well, I'll tell you what the problem's been all weekend, Army. I'm having a hard time with my carburetors. I can't get it to run right, so what I had to do, I backed off once I corrected to get the carburetors from popping out. So I'm just trying to keep it alive, so we're going to do it, make some changes for next week.
Let's watch it again. Boy, you can see those wheels cocked, just like you mentioned there, Army. They are at about a 30-35-degree angle. Next matchup, Dave Wysoryk's Nightlife Chevrolet will try to knock off the defending world champion, David Morris, in the Equalizer out of Springfield, Tennessee. Wysoryk out of Grand Island, Nebraska.
God, if there's a black cloud in the sport that hangs over anybody, it hangs over the Nightlife again. He makes a good qualifying run and has to come back and run the second quickest qualifier. His bad luck continues as far as the luck of the draw.
And while Wysoryk has beaten the likes of Bigfoot in the past, Equalizer has dominated this truck over the past year, and it's another victory for David Morris. That's the final race of the first round, and we've got a dandy quarterfinal round set up. As a matter of fact, when we come back in a moment, two old foes will be meeting once again. Andy Brass brings Bigfoot Ford out against Awesome Kong and Steve Kane from Killeen, Texas. This is a head-to-head matchup you don't want to miss next on Tuff Trax. Trucks remain in the hunt at Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis, Tennessee on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. Our first quarterfinal matchup will be Bigfoot against Awesome Kong, a couple of old rivals. That ought to be a dandy. Then we'll see the Buffalo Trimmer hooking up with USA 1. These guys have met several times this year, becoming quite a rivalry between these two Chevys. Our third matchup of the quarterfinal round sends out Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher against the Ford of Mike Wine, the outlaw from New Jersey. That'll be an entertaining Ford versus Chevy clash. And then to round out the quarterfinal round, Marvin Smith and the Wild Hair, a bit of a surprise winner over Clydesdale, but now he's got to face the Equalizer and David Morris. It's Bigfoot against Awesome Kong.
You know, it's really more than Bigfoot against Awesome Kong. It's over a 15-year rivalry between Bob Chandler, the owner of Bigfoot, and Jeff Daney, owner of Awesome Kong. No love lost. Each guy literally wants to tear the other one's throat out to take bragging rights out of Memphis. Who's it going to be? This will be super. Watch how smooth Bigfoot is. Kong has got to attack him on the starting line, Scott. If he's going to put him away, he's got to do it quick. He's got to get the first hop in.
What a great shot from the end zone. You can see how narrow Awesome Kong really is when you look at Bigfoot on one side and Kong on the other. Here we go.
What? Just dominant. Oh!
Hang on, Andy Brass. Whoa!
Andy completely dominant. He took the lead right at the start. Took off. Watch how quick Foot moves.
He blew him away, but then almost blew himself away as first. Watch how close Brass comes to flipping and then barely getting it shut down before nailing the hay bales and the wall at the end of the Mid-South Coliseum. But Andy Brass is no worse for wear. Army's got it.
Andy, you take a bad bounce with a new chassis, you're in a world of trouble. I think that last run proved that.
Yeah, it did. You know, we bit kind of off to the right side, and it sucked us over there. I'm going to start lining up maybe a little bit to the left on the cars. I've been doing it a little bit because this track's been pulling me to the right. It's just, I don't know if That could be I'm just lining up wrong on the hill.
Andy Brass will bring Bigfoot back in the semifinal round. Now a couple of Chevrolets, the True Value sponsored USA 1 and Steve Wilkie will take our in-truck camera along for the ride here as he takes on Buffalo Trimmer and John Kwasniewski. So we'll see the race, then we'll get a look at Steve Wilkie's ride inside the cab.
We've already watched Wilkie go through a ritual of psyching himself up in that big white truck on the right side. He really gets pumped up. You better believe in what you're doing. Wilkie lining up in a white truck. Out of Minnesota, New York, going after him in a red truck. Whoa, what's the skin? God, he is coming within an eighth of high side in that truck and just barely pulls it out.
But he's keeping in the throttle, and that is actually giving him more speed as he's keeping contact. Watch him. Look at the angle. You can see when you got to look at the crowd in back of Wilkie exactly how bad his angle was. Straight up and down, almost nosediving it, but the wheels, the front wheels were pulling him through, and he gets the win.
You got to power out in the monster right now. Full throttle is what brings him out. Meanwhile, the Trimmer, boy, he's got his hands full on the far side. The same problem, Scott.
Unbelievable that Johnny K didn't go over that time, because he really, watch at the end of the run on the left side of your screen, the Buffalo Trimmer, and how much trouble he starts to get in. Just like Wilkie, he high-sides it, and then a wild bounce at the end, but the Trimmer does not go over. However, the suspension may be a little worse for wear, as he really got a rough ending to that ride. The victory goes to Steve Wilkie, USA 1 out of Spring Lake Park, Minnesota. The True Value Chevrolet getting a big win. Wilkie's with Army.
Well, Steve, you know how wild your ride was just then?
Yeah.
Okay, Buffalo Trimmer had one just like you right next to you. That was scary.
Well, that's what it's taking, Army. Hey, you can't play no games anymore. We're coming out. We're hammering 1,500 horsepower and attacking that hill. And when you come over the hill, you're going to leave the hill. You come and hit the cars like that, and you're going to go nose over. It's that simple, and we just got to learn to deal with it.
And when we come back, we're going to deal with even more quarterfinal round racing. We don't know if it can get any wilder than this, but it might.
Let's talk.
Tuff Trax and the TNT Monster Truck Challenge at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. We know half of our semifinalists, Bigfoot and USA 1. We're about to determine the other two. Carolina Crusher and the Outlaw in the quarterfinal matchup. Then Wild Hair will meet Equalizer. Now, the Outlaw Ford is just now making it to the start line. We know he's been having problems. Army just a moment ago asked Mike Wine about the problem.
Mike Wine, you and the crew have been hammering and nailing all day long trying to keep the Ford going. What's the problem?
I had a regulator on the fuel pumps. One of them went out on me to me. Instead of having a damper in there regulating 7 pounds of pressure onto it, I'm feeding all of 14 to 15 pounds of pressure to one carburetor. Each round I go outside, I have to pull the spark plugs out of it and literally let the fuel run out to turn it over, then put the fuel plugs back in it to start it.
You got to keep it from hydraulic, and the cylinders are just loading up.
Yeah, cylinders are loading up with fuel. I'm just trying not to throw a rod and throw it right out onto the track.
So, Army, we obviously know it's a crippled Outlaw against Crusher.
Yeah, he's crippled, but it's like sitting on 8 little bombs full of gasoline in that Outlaw. That driver's sitting right on top of the engine. He gets a good ride. No! Carolina Crusher, but the old Outlaw, he didn't roll over, did he, Scott?
No, he went for it and gave it everything he had. Mike Wine's Outlaw, despite the problems, remaining competitive with the Chevrolet of Gary Porter. There you see the run once again, and Outlaw didn't back out one iota. But Crusher able to win. And Gary Porter, despite a truck that frankly is becoming antiquated when you consider the state of the art, he continues to run and run well, and Porter is back in the semifinals. Here's the Wild Hair, beautiful paint design. The kids love the look of this truck. Marvin Smith out of Arnold, Missouri. But I'll tell you, he had better have more than a good paint job if he's going to beat this opponent. It's the Equalizer and David Morris.
Talking about kids loving the truck, they're going to be able to buy a model of this truck, we understand, in the near future. So all the kids can be able to go TNT Monster Truck racing with us. But right now, Equalizer, Wild Hair, Chevrolet's a pair, Memphis, Tennessee. Green light, there we go. Oh, Equalizer came out like a gun.
Equalizer beat him out of the hole, and that was the difference. He had a full length on him across the hill, and it was all David Morris from that point. Equalizer gets the victory. That's our final quarterfinal round race. as David Morris puts away Marvin Smith, and this will allow Morris now to have a rematch with his main nemesis from a year ago on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge, that being Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher. Here we go with the Crunch of the Week.
Hold on to your seats for the amazing Crunch of the Week, brought to you by Micro Machines, the #1 colossally collectible vehicles in the world. If it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing.
Our Crunch of the Week takes us to July 1989, Richmond, Virginia, and watch David Morris and the Equalizer in trouble, and over he goes. You know, twice last year, David Morris had a violent flip like this where he actually sheared off a wheel, but he still won the World Championship. This year, several new trucks, including the new Bigfoot, want nothing more than to take that championship away from David Morris, but there's nothing they can do about 1989. This was just one of the rolls and tumbles on the way to a world title for David Morris and the Equalizer. One more time, Army, you were there, and boy, I thought he was hurt.
Well, it was a violent flip. It was kind of a sprint car flip. Look at this. He goes over, noses in. Now, pieces start to fly off. That's what made it look so violent. All the fuel's coming down. He's tucked in. The safety equipment all held up for him. That is a heck of a ride in about a 13,000-pound truck.
The Equalizer, the Crunch of the Week. We'll be back with more of the semifinals from Memphis, Tennessee, coming up on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. I'm Scott Douglas, back with Army Armstrong on Tuff Trax, the TNT Monster Trucks in Memphis, Tennessee. We're down to the final four. What semifinal matchups we have? Bigfoot and USA 1 renew their classic Ford Chevy matchup. And then the rivalry of 1989 is renewed in 1990. Carolina Crusher and the Equalizer, the top two trucks from a year ago. Here's Go-Go shaking and baking in front of the crowd at the Mid-South Coliseum. But right now they're shaking and baking over Bigfoot against USA 1. We talked with Andy Brass earlier about any fears that this seemingly invincible truck might break on him.
Well, my biggest fear right now is two things. One, the four-link suspension in the front, on the front axle. We've had a lot of trouble when we've landed the front end coming back and hitting the bottom of the cab, and when it does that, we've been to the lower bar. Now, the lower bar, I carry enough spares with me that I can pretty well change one every round, but that poses a problem along with the transmission. If I clear the hill, hit the hill real hard, and land all four wheels with the power on, a lot of times we just snap in transmissions. We get too much wheel speed when we land, it connects, and something has to break.
Scott, he was talking about that front end tucking under. That's exactly what happened to Scott Stevens earlier.
Ford versus Chevy, Bigfoot and USA 1.
Whoa, Bigfoot came out. Whoa, no! He got her shut out. We're standing at the end of the track, Scott, and I tell you, these cameramen are taking you right in the middle of these monster truck races, and it's scary from down here.
USA 1 gives Bigfoot a whale of a push. I'm going to tell you, Steve Wilkie is coming of age as a rivalry not only between Ford and Chevy, but between the two most successful owners of trucks. Bob Chandler's Bigfoot, Everett Jasmer's USA 1 is renewed here in 1990. 2 years ago, USA 1 beat Bigfoot for the title. Last year, USA 1 was a better truck. This year, Bigfoot seems to have the advantage. But Steve Wilkie's making up some ground. We've caught up with Wilkie in the pit. Let's get his thoughts right now.
Well, that's the rear tire's hitting that first car again. She goes nose over, and anytime you run against one of the foot trucks, you got to lay it on the boards and hold it there. And that's what we did. And she got a little squirrely, but you drive it out.
In 1989, Equalizer won the World Championship. The rookie, David Morris, got the job done. The man who was the most disappointed of all, this racing veteran, Gary Porter from the Carolina Crusher, who's accomplished an awful lot in his career, but wants nothing more than the TNT World Championship. He knows he's got to beat this truck and Bigfoot to get it.
The truck he has to beat is a rebuilt, a new, an updated version of the Equalizer. The Carolina Crusher we're looking at right now is the same Carolina Crusher we saw last year. Technology, you got to pull for the red truck. Just odds-on favorite, you got to pull for the yellow truck. Who's it going to be? Both of them Chevrolets got their green. A good lead by both trucks and a bad bounce by the Crusher gives the win to the Equalizer.
That was a suspension race, Army Armstrong.
Exactly, Scott.
Indeed, when Carolina Crusher topped that hill, it was the bounce. David Morris was very smooth. Here it is, Army. Now let's watch it. As he comes over, there it is like a trampoline, sends him straight up. David Morris is in the final, Army. You've got him. Can he beat Bigfoot? It's matchup number 3.
Who's it going to be?
Well, I hope it's going to be the equalizer. I'm going to run, this next race is going to be really wild, I can tell you that.
The whole day of monster truck racing has been wild in Memphis. It's about to be capped off with the Monster Smash between Bigfoot and the Equalizer. The TNT Monster Truck Challenge returns in just a moment. Entering the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, it's the Bigfoot Ford. I'm going to tell you, Army Armstrongs, there is a lot of unhappy talk in the pits from these drivers who are upset about the fact that Bigfoot took last year off from the TNT racing circuit to build this new truck, and now they're having trouble keeping up with it.
Scott, you notice the yellow and red stripes on the side of Bigfoot? That means it's a new Bigfoot. It's the racing Bigfoot, and it took a year to build, but what a year it was.
You know, the drivers are rightfully upset that Bigfoot could have raced last year and chose not to. Here's what some of them had to say about the new Bigfoot truck.
Well, there's sort of mixed feelings. Last year he wouldn't come out and play with us, and this year he's coming out and picking on us. And so he took a year off to, you know, to sort of regroup and build a new truck, and that's all he's doing is coming out and picking on us this year.
Well, obviously he has a definite advantage over any of us. He's had a lot of time to get his stuff together and come back out with a new truck. And I don't know, I guess I compare my truck. My truck's a couple years old, and it's really out of his league, you know. So I don't know, all I can do is the best I can to beat him.
I don't think the design of the truck is a problem, but they should have been out running with us that in 1989, but I don't know, what do you do about it? That's the politics.
Well, I don't like it right now because Bigfoot's dominating, you know, but I don't know, you know, if I could do the same thing, I'd probably do it too, but I don't think the suspension that he's running is fair to be running with Lee Spring trucks, and the reason I say that right now is because I can't afford his suspension that he's running.
Well, you can bet that very soon guys like Dennis Anderson and Gary Porter will have trucks to challenge Bigfoot and the Equalizer. And I'm going to tell you, Equalizer has not given anything back to Bigfoot. And as we get ready for the Monster Smash, keep in mind, these two guys have met twice before. And although the score is 1 each, Bigfoot is still not crossed in front of Equalizer. It's time for the Monster Smash. This is the rubber match.
Side by side, Scott, here they go. I can't tell. Scott, I have no idea. What does it look like to you?
It looks like a dead heat. I don't know. They're going to have to break this one down on the videotape replay camera that TNT uses to store its events and to actually time the trucks. Let's see what our camera angles show us, Army.
This is an opposite angle on the camera that we just saw, and it's dead, in my opinion, from this side, too. Scott, this could be the first ever dead heat in the sport.
Maybe we'll get a better look here as we can kind of get a read for how they hit the last car. The finish line is in the middle of the last car.
I still can't call it. I don't know.
Boy, they are really working the tape. Here's another angle. And as we watch it, Army, you've got both drivers down there with you. Let's see if they've got a feel for it, because nobody knows right now who won this race.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we started the show, we started exactly like we are right now, with these two guys literally in a toss-up for the national points lead, and we're still waiting to find out who is going to be the national points leader. They're rerunning the run right now. If you had to do it any different, what would you do right now, Andy?
I don't think there'd be anything, you know. Both of us run a good run, you know. I stayed in my lane, run consistent. Dave was running real well all night, so there ain't nothing really I would change.
Okay, we're going to bounce over to David here. You do anything different?
Yeah, I'd have made sure I kept my foot down on the floor when I landed in between the cars and the dirt hill. I think I got off of it too much.
Well, we're going to wait just a second. It looks like, boy, there's a strong possibility we actually may have a tie. Now, this has never happened before. If that's the case, they may have to go back to a qualifying time. I do not believe in this sport they're going to make them go and run these trucks over again. So sit tight. I'm sure we'll have some replays coming up. We're going to get with the officials. As soon as we do get the official word, we'll get back to you.
Okay, Army, let's go ahead and look at one right now. I think you can see on your monitor down there that Bigfoot and Equalizer are actually, you know, coming together, and we're going to get access to the TNT timing camera, and next take a look at that tape and see what the TNT officials are looking at. Because that's the determining factor right now, is if the TNT camera shows either truck even a hair ahead, and boy, you just can't pick it.
Okay, now both drivers are looking at this. There's Brassey's in the left-hand corner. Neither one of these drivers want to give the win to the other one. There's a strong possibility, Scott, they may go back and do it again. There's Morris. He can't call it, and he's not going to give it to Brass. Brass, he can't call it. He's not going to give it to Morris. I can't believe what's going to happen. The word I'm getting is they might be going back to the line, Scott.
I don't know if we can listen in.
The show must go on, that's right. What are we going to do, guys? We're going to run it over, ladies and gentlemen.
You hear track announcer Butch Krieger letting the folks in Memphis know that they are going to race again, unheard of in this sport.
Now, Scott, this decision was made by the drivers. The drivers got together. You talk about pride. These old boys, old Southern-style pride here. Neither one will admit that he's going to give a win to the other one, Scott. Never before. We're going to see some history right now.
You know, the drivers in the discussion, from what I was getting out of it, Army, was that any time somebody brought up a suggestion of dead heat splitting points, neither camp was willing to accept that.
No, neither. Right now, Bigfoot's outside. Remember Andy Brass earlier in the interview said he was worried about the front suspension? Well, he bent one of those rods. Bob Chandler himself, Mr. Bigfoot, he's here. This is how important this win is. One of these trucks will be the monster truck to beat in 1990. We're going to find out who it'll be in just a minute.
Trying to prove who's the bad dog right now. You look at it one more time, and when we come back, we'll break this tie. Monster Truck Challenge, as exciting as it is here on Tuff Trax. Lots of great action coming up. Hey, with the pulls in Greensboro Coliseum, March 16th through the 18th, you'll also see special appearances by Gravedigger, Carolina Crusher, and Mopar Magic. And when the monsters hit Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque, watch for King Crutch, Awesome Kong, Bigfoot, and lots more. It's always the superstars when you see TNT Motorsports live in these arenas all across the country. Well, it's time to go to work in the Monster Smash Final Part 2. We have never done this before, Army Armstrong. We're rerunning the championship because the videotape determined it was a pure dead heat the first time.
Like I say, ladies and gentlemen that are sitting and watching this telecast, you are seeing history in monster truck racing right now. Neither one's going to give anything to the other one. I'm going to kick back on the end of the track, find me a safe place to watch it. This will literally be a war.
Bigfoot and Equalizer. And again, I want to repeat, Bigfoot has still not beaten Equalizer across the finish line. This will be the fourth time they've matched up. And as dominant as everybody's been talking about Bigfoot, he still has not beaten Equalizer across the line. The only win he's got was the DQ when they claimed that Equalizer jumped the start light last week. And Army, you and I don't believe that was the right call anyway.
They missed the call. Like I say, though, we had the advantage of looking at another camera. The track crew did not. Speaking of track crew, everybody in the building is on their feet. It's going to be history in Memphis. Take it, Scott.
Ready to go. Bigfoot on the right of your screen. Equalizer on the left. Watch the red light in the middle. When it goes green, it's showtime. The Monster Smash. Take 2.
Chevrolet going against Ford. Look for the green light.
Again, Army, Bigfoot and Equalizer have once again gone neck and neck, start to finish. We'll watch the replay, and maybe we can listen to track announcer Butch Krieger because we're not getting an indication as to who actually won this race. Boy,
awfully close again. You know, the replay keeps showing these. You talk about evenly matched, Scott. Look at this. And the trucks are not doing the same thing. They each work good in their own way.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Let's see.
Let's give these drivers a real big round of applause.
All right, Butch is getting applause for both of them right now. Butch will be the first one to hear the result. Let's see if we can hear this call.
Your winner, ladies and gentlemen, is Bigfoot by 7.
How about it, Scott? Bigfoot for the first time.
He's coming over to see you, Army, and it's the happy Andy Brass.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is an all-American story right here. The man with the dream is on my right, Bob Chandler. The man that took the dream to the winner's circle today, Andy Brass. And Andy, it just did not come easy in Memphis, did it?
No, it wasn't. You know, we would have to run a dead heat there with him and then turn around running again. We knew we were just going to have to push it, maybe pull the light a little bit.
He's tough.
Yes, he is. Dave's been running good all night. We've been watching these times. We was pulling 379. I don't know. Maybe we was sleeping a little bit or something because we went down to a 382. We backed up a little bit.
Well, congratulations to you. And Bob Chandler, what can I say? You had the dream. You made it come true. And you told me earlier this is just a taste of what monster truck racing's coming to. It's going to get bigger and better as the years go along, right?
I'm sure it is. Yeah, there's a lot of other guys building trucks like this. The suspension is the answer. Dave Morris runs suspension. Now, his truck is lighter. That's one of the reasons he got the advantage here today. But it's going to get better and better. It's going to be neat racing.
One more time, we're going to get a look at Bigfoot and Equalizer in the final. And Bob Chandler really telling you where it's at, Army, and that is in that suspension. Lots of other guys are getting ready to come out with new trucks.
You know, he also says it's neat racing, and that is a fact. A lot of new trucks coming out, like you say. Bigfoot, again, has pushed technology to the forefront.
Andy Brass, the winner in Bigfoot in Memphis, Tennessee. And this time a clear-cut victory, as you saw on the replay, about a quarter of wheel length over the Equalizer. Still, that really has no impact on Equalizer's World Championship points lead as we look at the Restore Automotive Products season point standings on the TNT Monster Truck World Challenge points battle. Equalizer the leader. King Crunch and Gravedigger are still hanging tough, but the difference between them and the Equalizer is really beginning to stretch out. USA 1 is hanging tough. Wilkie may be ready to make a run in Everett Jasmer's truck. The Outlaw has struggled as of late, but a good start keeps him in the number 5 spot. There's Buffalo Tremor at number 6, the consistent Dave Wysork at Nightlife at number 7, and look at this. With only 3 races under his belt, Bigfoot has already moved into the top 8. Now, Carolina Crusher is worth noting. We'll talk more about him in just a second. Thunder Chicken rounds out the top 10. Army, I want to mention Carolina Crusher one more time because Gary Porter is hanging in there with an antiquated truck. When he is able to get a 1990s truck, which isn't that far off, I think Porter is going to be a player this year.
What you're going to see of the top 10 trucks there, 7 of them are building them new, and they're going after the Big Blue.
The Big Blue and the Big Red. David Morris's Equalizer continues to sit atop the world points chase, but here in Memphis, no doubt about it, Bigfoot has served notice. One more time, Bigfoot and Equalizer.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Call it about a half a wheel length. I don't think it was that much.
Watch out quick, Bigfoot. Right before the cars. Watch the acceleration now. Literally leaps. Awesome. And he weighs 2,000 pounds more than the Equalizer.
So Bigfoot gets it done in Memphis, Tennessee, is on this 3rd week of matching up head-to-head with the Equalizer. This time, Andy Brass had his truck in front at the finish line. Wow, what action from Memphis. Next week here on Tuff Trax, we're going to pause to take a look back at what has been an incredible first 6 weeks of action for determining a new world champion on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. For Army Armstrong, I'm Scott Douglas. We'll look for you next week right here on Tuff Trax.
Jimmy Parker, here's